NASCAR goes to Bristol, one of the final 3 before the chase. Kevin Harvick talks preparation for the chase. And it's official, Carl is going to Gibbs. Raceline is brought to you in HD by Mechanics Wear Gloves, the #1 glove in NASCAR. Available at Lowe's. By Ford. Go to Ford Always Racing to see the latest from Ford Racing. And by Z-Max, the one product for your engine, fuel system, and transmission. Here's Joe Moore.
NASCAR is down to 3 to go. 3 races remaining in the regular season before the chase starts at Chicagoland Speedway. Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Moore, welcoming you to this week's edition of Raceline. The headlines from last week at Michigan: Jeff Gordon, the 24 team, on fire. Another week of trouble for Jimmy Johnson. Roush Fenway teams continue to struggle, and the Penske teams are going to be tough contenders for this year's title. Let's start with 2 of those stories. Jeff and Joey on the front row last Sunday, and these 2 were the story of the race. Without a doubt, they were in a class of their own. Michigan provided their own version of the big one, but this multi-car crash started when Danica got sideways. She collected Justin Allgaier, Martin Truex, Michael Annett, and Trevor Bayne. But most of the race, it was all Joey. Until the final restart, Jeff Gordon drove in deep to pass Joey and never looked back. Jeff drove to his 3rd win of the year and his 3rd win at Michigan Speedway.
It wasn't an easy victory, even though we had a great race car. Those restarts are so crucial, but also intense here, with the speeds that we're carrying. And, just proud of the effort. I mean, it's just an awesome effort all day to stick with it and have good pit strategy, pit stops, and, be in that position there at the end to have a shot at it.
Still 12 winners on the year so far. 4 spots still open for the winless drivers based on points. They are Matt Kenseth, Ryan Newman, Clint Bowyer, and Greg Biffle. Casey Kane, Austin Dillon, and Kyle Larson are outside the envelope, but within 24 points of making the cut. Kevin Harvick had a great run at Michigan, finishing 2nd, and he joins us here today on Raceline. Kevin, pretty good run last week, and really overall a good month you're having right now.
Yeah, we've had a great month, and obviously Michigan has been our 2nd place finishing track for the last couple of years. That's the 4th time in a row, but definitely the 24 definitely had the best car all day, and we were 2nd or 3rd place car, and were able to put together the whole day and finish where we ran. So that was the most important thing for us.
Next stop is Bristol this weekend. You've won there, but not since 2005. What kind of frame of mind are you in for this week's race, Kevin?
Well, I have to be really positive about it because my crew chief, that's his favorite track. So we're going there with a really positive outlook on things. We had a great car at the beginning of the year, and hopefully we can come back and have a great race again. So Bristol's just one of those places you just kind of never know what you're going to get, and with the weather and the grooves and everything that comes with it. So it's definitely always an interesting race.
Kevin Harvick, driver of the Budweiser Chevy at Stewart-Haas Racing, one of the 12 drivers locked into the chase. So how do you prepare for that? We'll ask him later today on Raceline.
Here's a look at this week's championship points on our Ford scoreboard. Ford, race tough, work tough. Win a new Ford F-150 and join Brad Keselowski's race team at Homestead. Enter at racetoughworktough.com. More of today's Raceline is coming up.
At Mechanics Wear, our roots are in racing, but our gloves are everywhere. No matter what the job, no matter where it is, and no matter what the conditions, Mechanics Wear has the perfect glove to get the job done right every time. You can work faster, work safer, and work cleaner. Mechanics Wear, the tool that fits like a glove.
You know, millions of people have saved with Progressive, so I get invited to quite a few family gatherings. Heck, I saved Judith here a fortune with discounts like Safe Driver, Multi-Car, Paperless. You make a mighty fine Mrs. M'Lady. I'm not saying Mark's thrifty. Let's just say I saved him $519, and it certainly didn't go toward that ring. Am I right? So visit Progressive.com today. I call this one the Robot.
NASCAR news is brought to you by the Motor Racing Network. Listen on a station near you or at MotorRacingNetwork.com. Here's Tiffany Ricardo.
The worst-kept silly season secret of 2014 was finally made official last week. Our Jeff Taylor confirms Carl Edwards has announced his new team for next year.
That's right, Tiffany. After weeks of speculation, it is now a done deal. Carl Edwards will be driving for Joe Gibbs Racing in 2015. And if you ask Carl, the drivers at Joe Gibbs Racing, or the coach himself, everyone is thrilled that Carl's on board.
If you look at the talent sitting in that front row in those three chairs, it's massive. So for me to be able to learn from those guys, I mean, I know how good Matt Kenseth is. I was fortunate enough to be on his team for a long time, and I think it'll be a neat opportunity to learn from some guys. You know, if you look at where I'm at right now, I get driven every week by Greg Biffle and Ricky Stenhouse. I mean, these guys. So the opportunity to work with new guys and learn new things, that's really exciting for me.
There's a high value on having teammates that can win each and every week. When I came over here, it was one of the things I really looked forward to, and it was also something I was kind of nervous about. I was like, I don't want to get whipped by my teammates every single week, So, certainly adding Carl to that mix is another guy that can go out and win on any given week. He can win a championship. So I think that's good for all of us. I think it'll make us all better.
With his plans now set in stone for the 2015 season, you might think Carl Edwards would be looking toward next year, but that is not the case if you ask Carl. He is looking at 2014 and winning that championship for Jack Roush. Tiffany?
Okay, thanks a lot, Jeff. Stewart-Haas Racing is not saying much about Tony Stewart's future plans. The team says Tony is taking his own time to work through the tragedy that took the life of Kevin Ward Jr. at Canandaigua Speedway. And all their concern is for him, his family, and the Ward family. Stewart-Haas Executive Vice President Brett Frood spoke to the media at Michigan.
Tony's surrounded right now by his closest friends and family. We're obviously in contact with him, and his location is of a private nature right now.
And Mr. Frood was asked to give us his thoughts of the handling of the situation by the media.
Well, we certainly understand the media has a job to do. And while there may be some irresponsible reporting, right now the focus of everyone should be on the family that's grieving, and there has been some of that focus that hasn't been there. I'm quite certain when we get through this that everyone will get the story from the key parties.
The decision has once again been made that Tony Stewart will sit out the Sprint Cup race at Bristol this weekend. Jeff Burton takes his place again in the number 14 Chevrolet. Toyota teams are not having a great season, appearing underpowered for the majority of events in the past few months. Chevrolets have been dominating the Cup Series over the last 13 weeks. The last Toyota Sprint Cup win was Denny Hamlin's at Talladega in May. Matt Kenseth, a 7-time winner last year from Joe Gibbs Racing, is still winless in 2014.
Basically haven't had quite enough speed. I mean, last year, I feel like we put ourselves in position to win a few times this year, and, just didn't have enough speed and strength to be able to get the win and be able to either hold them off or pass those last couple cars or whatever the case may be. So I feel like we've been solid this year. I feel like on average our performance is getting better. We've had some troubles and dropped out of races and things like that, but the races we have finished and we've been running, we've usually been close to the top 5. We just need to get running just a little bit faster to break through and hopefully get some wins.
And there were only 2 Toyotas in the top 15 last week at Michigan. Well, 10 Sprint Cup teams stayed over an extra day at the Michigan International Speedway to test several configurations for next season. The tests involved aerodynamic and engine combinations used in double-file race simulations. NASCAR Vice President of Innovation and Racing Development, Gene Stephanician, explains the ultimate goal of the tests.
We're looking for basically a fan-centric type of direction. Fans have said they like a lot of passing. They like a lot of side-by-side. They like a lot of lead changes. And so that's what we're endeavoring to do.
And Joe Gibbs Racing's Denny Hamlin said he was impressed.
I'd love the test. You know, I was disappointed for 9 hours and excited for 1 hour, you know, but that's kind of, you know, part of the process. I think that NASCAR wanted us to kind of go one direction. I think at the very end we found something that really moved the needle on what our cars are capable of doing. To see lightning fast speeds in the straightaways and slow speeds in the corners it just opens up, in my opinion, so many more opportunities for Goodyear to build great tires, and instead of having to build something that has to last, they can build a tire that keeps giving us more grip and that has more fall off. So with fall off comes passing, with passing comes wrecks.
Now here's some of the other stories going on this week around NASCAR Nation. Comcast's Xfinity is in contract negotiations with NASCAR to become title sponsor of what is now the Nationwide Series. The company is considering a 5 to 6 year deal valued at more than $100 million. Junior Motorsports has announced that Ernie Cope will become Chase Elliott's crew chief next year, replacing Greg Ives, who moves to Hendrick Motorsports to work with Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the number 88. Cope is currently crew chief on Junior Motorsports' number 5 car, which runs a part-time schedule. As we reported last week, Ryan Blaney is set to join the Wood Brothers next year.
You know, I'm very excited to be able to race for the Wood Brothers next year. You know, they've been so great to me with you know, the week and a half that I've been over there, and just the history there with this team is very special, and just the great names that I've driven for this team is obviously very special, and it's a dream come true. So, you know, thank you, Eddie and Len, for giving me a chance here, and, you know, Motorcraft and Quick Lane for being behind it.
And there are some changes in next year's Sprint Cup Series schedule, evidently. Atlanta will be moved to the second race of the year, and Darlington's Southern 500 goes back to its traditional date on Labor Day. Sources say the full schedule could be out as early as this weekend.
There's more Raceline right after these important messages.
Welcome back to Raceline. Kevin Harvick is with us today on the show, a winner earlier this year at Phoenix in Darlington. Kevin, going into this week's race at the Bristol Motor Speedway, what does your car need to do for you to be good there?
Roll. The car has to roll at the finish of the race first. But the second thing is you have to be able to turn the center of the corner and still be able to throttle up off the corner wide open and keep your car handling in those two parts of the corner all day. So it's definitely a racetrack that you know, has typically been around the top since they've redone it. You can run the bottom and the middle throughout the restarts, but as we've seen in the past couple of years, if it does rubber up a lot on the top, the middle will come back. So it just depends on where the rubber goes this weekend.
Do you know where you need to go on the track, or is it a guessing game every time you go back to Bristol?
It's been fairly consistent around the top, and that's been the fastest way. There's been, you know, just a few instances where the rubber gets caked up on the top of the racetrack on a really long run, but usually once the caution comes back out, the top comes back in.
Carl Edwards won the spring race this year at Bristol. Last year's winners were Casey Kane and Matt Kenseth. Kevin won the spring race in 2005.
This week's Sim Seats Driver of the Week is Jeff Gordon, driving deep under Joey Logano to pass for the win at Michigan. Sim Seats, built for you, built to win. Find out more at sim-seats.com.
I think it's safe to say that most NASCAR fans really deep down inside would love to try driving a race car. And of course you have a couple of options. You can buy a car and try your skill at a local racetrack. There are several driving schools where you can get a few laps for a lot of money. But a less expensive, much safer, and certainly more convenient way to do it is with a race simulator. Now that may sound way out of your price range, but it's really not. A basic computer, some readily available software, and a rig from Sim Seats will give you the thrill of driving a race car in your own home.
Seat time is very important to all drivers, And 20 years ago, the only time you got seat time was in a race car just like this. But with technology today, all drivers are using simulation. And SimSeats has found a way to enhance the simulation experience.
SimSeats helps bridge the gap between software and driving equipment that's out there, electronic steering wheels and these sorts of things. We provide the chassis that allows these people to do this at home.
So anybody can go sim racing?
Anybody. You don't have to have a $20,000 race car. It's really affordable. Once you get a rig, you can build it up, and with the new software that's out, the tracks are laser scanned. I mean, they're really accurate. And we even use it for training. We're all racers at SimSeats, and we use it for training before we go to the track. And it's really important to get the whole experience. So with surround sounds that we provide, you get the feel of racing even though you're not in the car. And it's really wild. These guys are using it for training. Earnhardt's a big iRacing guy, and they're using rigs like SimSeats when they're not at the track to get ready for the next event.
I am the lead design and test engineer, so like Zach, we both go to the track, and so Zach relies on me to help translate that experience of being at the track into the simulation rigs that we sell here. Going to the track, I'm an instructor as well, and sometimes I arrive at a track that I've never driven before, and I'm expected to be in the right seat with the student, telling them how to go faster around that track. So by using one of our simulation rigs here before I go to that track, I do have that ability to show up with experience and teach that young student how to be faster at a track I've never driven before.
You'd probably be surprised with made in USA, handmade, but these are affordable. And you can start from a basic unit and you can build it up all the way to what you see behind me, an iRacing package complete with surround sound, triple screens. Anybody can get started with the SimSeat.
So SimSeats obviously knows what they're doing when it comes to sim racing rigs, and I'm going to try my hand at the first time here at South Boston in a late model. I'm Russ Wiles with Raceline, and Sideways.
Again, you can find out more at sim-seats.com. Start small or start big. It's as close as you can get to driving a race car without having to leave the house.
Raceline invites you to join us on Facebook and Twitter. We're at facebook.com/RacelineTV and on Twitter at RacelineTV. Also on the World Wide Web at RacelineOnline.com.
It's a feeling you only get by being here. See the stars, experience the excitement, and create memories to last a lifetime. As NASCAR's top 16 drivers fight the field as they battle for the championship. It's the swelling in your heart and the rumble beneath your feet.
The chase begins at Chicagoland Speedway.
It all leads up to this. It's race day. Chicagoland Speedway. The chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup starts here.
3 races to go till the regular season is over and we move into championship mode, what we call the chase. Now 12 drivers are locked in, another 4 are hanging on by a thread, and another 14 could get in if they move up in points enough or win.
Now, Joe, winning is the surest way to make it, and of course, if we get another different winner, that's going to shake things up, certainly among those guys hanging on by points. Kevin Harvick joins us again today. He's among those already in. So, Kevin, how do you approach these remaining 3 events? Is it mostly working on strategy?
Well, our main strategy has to get the consistency that we need to go along with our fast cars, and I think we've done a good job of that since the break. You have to be able to overcome things and rebound when something happens in the pits or on the track during the race. So we've done a great job at that. Obviously, our cars have still been fast, and so we just balance that consistency with winning races, and we'll be just fine.
Now, this year's chase has a totally different look from anything we've ever done before. It's a whole new format. So how do you prepare for something so different?
Well, I think you just have to prepare like you would for any other format. You just have to take it 1 week at a time. Obviously, we want to win and you want to advance to each round, but you have to take it 1 weekend at a time. So we're going to Chicago to test, we're going to Loudon to test, and hopefully we can put some things to bed that we've had in our minds and get good setups for those 2 racetracks. And really, it'll be the first time we've tested all year. So that's encouraging, and hopefully we learn some things from it.
Okay, at your Stewart-Haas operation right now, 2 cars in for certain, yourself, Kurt Busch. Ryan Newman is in on points, but that certainly could change. during any of these next 3 races. How does that change the dynamic within the organization?
Yeah, you know, the team dynamic is obviously unique at this point of the year when you have 2 trying to get in the chase and 2 already in the chase. So you have preparation for the Chicago race on 2 of the teams, and you have the other 2 teams throwing everything they have at it to try to win one of the next 3 races. So everybody wants everybody in, but, you know, on our side, we have to prepare for what we know is in front of us and do the best we can to help the other 2 as well.
That's Kevin Harvick, driver of the Budweiser Chevy at Stewart Haas Racing, a former winner at Bristol.
Let's check our standings in the Mechanics Wear Weekly Challenge. Alex had Junior last week. He finished in 5th. Tiffany had Harvick, who had a 2nd place finish. Postman had Joey Logano, who came in 3rd, and I had Brad Keselowski, who hit the wall, but still finished in the 8th spot. Our Mechanics Wear Weekly Challenge winner this week, Tim Young of Blossburg, Pennsylvania. Tim, a pair of Mechanics Wear gloves are on their way to you. So what about this week at Bristol? This is a tough one.
Joe, it is, and I know we talked earlier in the show about how the Toyotas have been underpowered for most of the season. However, the guy I'm picking this week has 5 wins at Bristol, and I think his Toyota might make its way back to victory lane this week. Kyle Busch wins at Bristol.
It's time to make our race picks. I'm going to give my pick to Kevin Harvick. Harvick, who should I pick at Bristol?
If you're going to show up at our event, you better pick us.
It's as simple as that. I've got Kevin Harvick to win at Bristol.
And a little bit unusual circumstance this week. If you listen to Motor Racing Network, you know that Alex Hayden has a terrible case of laryngitis, and that's why he was not on our show this week also. But since he is leading us by so much, he did beg to be able to still make his pick this week. He was able to whisper to me and tell me he wanted to pick Marcus Ambrose to win at Bristol.
All right, guys, I'm going to go back with Cousin Carl. I think he's got a big load off his shoulders after the announcement this past week of his move next year, and now he's going to concentrate on a championship and started off at a track where he's won before, Bristol Motor Speedway. Carl Edwards. All right, our picks are Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Marcus Ambrose, or Carl Edwards.
Next week, NASCAR goes to Atlanta Motor Speedway, and Carl Edwards will join us to preview that event and talk more about his move to Joe Gibbs Racing next year.
See you next week.
Raceline is brought to you by Mechanics Wear Gloves, the #1 glove in NASCAR. By Ford, go further. And by SimSeats driving simulators, made for racers, made by racers, made in the USA. Raceline is produced in Chesapeake, Virginia by Raceline Productions, Jomo Incorporated, and Stargazer Media. Join us next week for another edition of Raceline. I'm Jeff Moreau.